For the last few days, I've been planning out the next romance video and I actually hit a stumbling block where I wasn't sure if I wanted to name it Magic Romance Year or something else. I think Magic Romance Year was more accurate for the topic being discussed, but that this new title will probably elicit more attention. I want to ask something. How often have you seen a movie or TV show where after a male character is rejected by a female character he has feelings for, the female character or someone else asserts that he will one day find someone that is interested in him as well? This is something that has bothered me when watching media because it feeds into this idea that everyone eventually will find someone, which is not true. And I was, ironically enough, accused of this mindset by a commentator on my channel a few years back. I haven't been able to locate the comment, but it was something along the lines of, "You probably watched a bunch of movies or TV and thought there was a perfect romance." I laughed at this comment because I've always been cognizant of the fact that fiction is written by people, and that since people control what we see in fiction, oftentimes they write something that isn't likely to or never could happen in real life. The other ironic part of this comment was that there are actually multiple people who have claimed to have glimpsed into the future and tried to tell me about this magic broad that will come around and do the complete opposite of almost every single woman that came before her. In 2015, there was a woman that I met online and began texting. After a number of months, I related my attraction to her. I don't have the messages anymore, so you'll have to take my word for it, but she responded something along the lines of, "I think these things always go left for you because you have a lack of confidence. Focus on self-love and the rest will follow." I'm going to refrain from inserting my commentary until the end of this recollection, but notice a pattern here. When I did my How Romance Dehumanizes Men video, I mentioned that people like to diagnose me as suffering from a lack of confidence, and this has been especially jarring since not only have I demonstrated confidence in my views on this subject, but I also have not in any recent time exercised self-loathing. This includes the period in which I spoke to this woman. In January 2018, a woman I subscribed to put up a video explaining her goals and ambitions as well as some parts of her past that resonated with me. And I related the following in the screenshot you're seeing. She replied in part, "You'll find the right woman eventually. I'm sorry that you've had some terrible experiences. She's probably out there working on herself and her issues, whatever those are, so that you both can be in a better place when your paths finally cross." In late 2018, Triple L had a text message conversation with me in which she stated out of nowhere that she was not looking for anything romantic. She would later admit that this was not due to something I wrote to her that could be interpreted as flirtatious, but it began a conversation about both of our past history with romance. And she wrote many things that I cannot put on the screen at the same time, so I'll summarize. She claimed that in like 2 years, I would meet a woman who she defined as a different caliber of chick that would start approaching me. Because I don't speak in riddles like she did, I asked for clarification on what this different caliber was. And she wrote that this meant the women would eventually be more attractive, smarter, and more on my wavelength than their predecessors. Later in April 2020, an elderly man who I traded emails with and was speaking mostly to about politics caught wind of my romantic views after the subject was brought up, and he opined, "You're very young. I wouldn't be worried about your future. If you push it, you might wind up with less than you might have had." In these 4 examples taking place over the course of the last 5 years, notice something all of them except the Triple L one have. They all insist on someone eventually coming, and that's pretty much it. Triple L's promise is the only one out of anybody that specified a time for when this magical woman who is prettier, smarter, and more on my wavelength is going to descend from the sky and ride off with me into the sunset. A policy I've always had is to never say a woman's name or show her picture to another woman I'm speaking to. So Triple L, who had never seen what any of the 90 plus women I spoke to looked like, somehow could assure me that this upcoming magical woman is going to be prettier than all of them. And she never defined what she meant by smarter. Is this magical woman going to have a PhD or a master's degree? What is it with people using words that mean nothing between different caliber and wavelength? I didn't know if I was having a grounded conversation with a fellow adult or reviewing rejected lyrics for a Snoop Dogg song. One of the ongoing themes of my romantic pursuits was the acceptance of imperfection. This is what allowed me to be interested in a blind woman, a bisexual woman, women that lived in different states or countries, all of these being traits that I did not find appealing in the sense that they were not things I was looking for in a partner, but that I was willing to accept so long as I was attracted to the person. What Triple L promised, in my opinion, was very dangerous. Remember what she wrote. By 2020, I am scheduled to either meet a woman or begin meeting women who are hotter, smarter, and more on my wavelength than any of the ones that came before. Understand how tall of an order that is. She's not just promising a woman, which is already a bad thing to do, but she's also foreboding of a woman who can walk on water, a woman who is concurrently so superior to all of the ones that came before and also is unlike them in having an attraction to me. She's promising the ultimate woman who is going to be so much of everything I want in a partner, while also magically being the first woman to be determined to get with me no matter what. In my opinion, the only reason I am not in a relationship is because the women I approached believed I was not good enough to be with them. It's the same reason why most of the men who frequent my channel have this issue as well. Ask yourself, if you're a man, how many times you've met some woman who you at the very least were attracted enough to want to go on a date with, and that person said no. That means you accepted her for who she was, enough to give her a chance, and she declined to do the same for you because she did not think you were good enough for her. It doesn't mean that's actually true, but the effect is the same. Let's say a woman approached me and asked me on a date and I turned her down. Let's also say this woman owned more money than me, was smarter than me. I complimented her in the past as being funny or physically attractive and had indicated that I liked speaking to her. When I turned her down, it's not a confirmation that she is a bad person or lacks redeeming qualities, or that she even has some quality that makes her undesirable. It is a confirmation that I believe she is not good enough for me, which again doesn't mean it's actually true, but the effect is the same. And that's really what this is about. A lot of these people who are claiming that there is a magical year in which I meet a woman who is attracted back seem to not know that I've already met multiple women who said they were. In 2017, a woman and myself, this woman having initiated our correspondence, started speaking. She lived in another country and we arranged to get married and for me to fly out of the U.S. Within 5 days of this conversation, and after she got into some argument with her relative, she rescinded her interest. That same year, there was a woman from another country who would write to me on YouTube and told me how smart she thought I was, how funny I was, how handsome I was. Her last message to me was conveying excitement at the prospect of us having a phone call. And within days of this message, she announced that she would no longer be speaking to me. In 2020, a woman who previously said I was more handsome, smarter, and funnier than her ex-fiance gave me her phone number and the exact next day stopped responding to me. But remember, Triple L claims that women are going to stop doing this to me because it's 2020/21/22/24/27/28/29/30/31/32/33/34/35/36/37/38. Maybe I'm not making myself clear. Many modern women are so insane that you can get turned down by one who says she's not interested up front, and by one who gasses you up with a bunch of compliments and the supposed desire to be with you. This is because a lot of women have developed a uniform, homogenized rejection system where if they don't entirely feel committed to you or get the slightest feeling that there might be a problem at some point, they will throw you away quicker than an empty bag of chips they finished digesting the contents of. And when this happens, you're supposed to feel bad about yourself and believe that you have a fatal flaw that stops you from getting a relationship. Or, according to Triple L, when this happens, you're supposed to say, this woman that talked about how much she wanted to be with me and changed her mind out of nowhere wasn't telling of what's to come. I know that as long as I wait until 2021 or 22 or 23 or 24, this magic woman who is hotter, smarter, and more in my wavelength will come save the day. In the past, I talked about having basic pattern recognition skills, which is when someone who is accused of being negative can look at a pattern and deduce their outcome is likely to stay the same based on the pattern. If a company makes 5 movies and I hate all of them, I can use basic pattern recognition skills to deduce that I probably won't like the next one either. If I got a date for every 10 women I spoke to and I spoke to 90 of them, that would mean there was a 9% chance that I would get a date the next time I approach, meaning that the odds were leaning against me, but I had reason to believe it was still possible. Of the at least 4 women who have outright stated they were interested in me, none of them did I meet by making the first move, meaning that there is a 0% chance that a woman I begin the dialogue with will reciprocate my feelings. I'm not saying there is no chance to be negative, but that I cannot recall, let alone prove, that a woman who I approached first ever reciprocated my attraction. If you recall, Triple L claimed in her madman comment to me that a different caliber of chick would start approaching me, meaning they would begin contact before this supposed mutual attraction that ends with a dream wedding would take place. What needs to be understood is that I have now proven there have been multiple women who have initiated dialogue with me and changed their minds seemingly out of nowhere. Because this has taken place over the course of multiple years, and Triple L's argument hinged on this idea that we all collectively feel as though we were dumb when we were younger, then that means we have no reason to believe that these supposed different caliber broads are going to not just rinse and repeat the mistakes of their predecessors. Who's to say a woman I meet in 2021, 22, 23, 24, whatever the hell, does not claim she's interested, and then after a series of conversations over the course of a few weeks or months, decides she cannot get with me and breaks off contact? This is what they have always done. I'm consistent in reciprocating. They're consistent in cock blocking and terminating any chance of this going further than talking. One of the reasons I stopped approaching women in 2017 was because I was tired of being treated like a scapegoat. I was tired of shouldering the blame for any and every decision made by a woman. I've had things that I wasn't successful at in the past, whether that was not landing a job, not being able to play a sport, etc. But no one ever told me that there was something wrong with me just because those things didn't turn out the way I wanted. The worst I ever did to a woman was say something she didn't like. I never put my hands on any of them. And despite this, I've had people claim I'm going to be a rapist, among other disgusting commentary. That's when I realized that these comments are not being made because I'm actually saying something that is indicative of someone who is trying to force himself on a woman. This nonsense is being written because I would dare to not look down on myself for what they decided would be the case, a choice they made to not be involved with me no matter how many attempts I made. I need to be crucified and have my character assassinated because I critique the decisions made by women I've spoken to. Triple L's text messages that I have shown throughout the video are almost 2 years old. So according to her prediction, we're close to the time period where this different caliber of chick is supposed to start approaching me, where these hotter, smarter, more on my wavelength women are going to sweep in and alleviate me of my stagnant love life. Let's pretend tomorrow, August 22nd, I meet a woman who likes me back and eventually asks me on a date and wants to do all of these things I want to do. This will mean that ahead of meeting this fairy tale woman, I will have had to have been turned down over 90 times and have only been in a relationship with a gold digger beforehand. I've said this before, but even if I meet a woman that reciprocates my interest, which, as I've shown from the screenshots, has already happened, they either are lying or just aren't committed, I'll still believe that it took too long. Remember that all those different conversations with bimbos and liars were to get a date. Not to get a girlfriend, not to get married, not to have kids, a date. This is why I don't like talking to these weird optimists. They want me to be appeased or think it was remotely right that I had to wait 9 years to go on a date. As much as I say my different attempts at talking to women were pointless, they left behind a legacy of a diminished perspective on the decisions and intelligence of members of the opposite sex. Those multiple years of being turned down over and over again are not going to be erased just because a woman finally acted like she had some common sense. No one should have to talk to a number of women that is larger than the number of days in a quarter of a year to get a date. I've never heard of a woman having to talk to 90 men to get one of them to go out with her, but because I have a penis, I'm expected to put up with the same cycle of disinterest year after year. One of the reasons I make references to the amount of time that has passed is because there are a lot of people who try to use my age against my arguments, and I'm going to do a separate video analyzing that further. This is why Triple L wrote that at age 20, you're not allowed to complain about a stagnant love life. And this is why that man wrote, "You're very young," in an attempt to disquiet my distaste for the way things are. I am someone who is very in tune with his own mortality, meaning that I recognize that when my time is wasted, I'm not allowed to rewind and get it back. If for 9 years, women spoke to me without being interested in going on a date, there's no reason to not believe that they could stretch out this stagnation for another 9 years, or even longer than 18, which is 9 times 2. The reason people like to use my age to discredit my opinion is because they want to justify me waiting around for a woman to determine that I am finally good enough to go on a date with. According to them, I'm supposed to finally get this date at 23 or 24 or 25 or 26, or even after that. And this will herald in an era of me finally not getting ignored by the opposite sex. Something that is lost on the part of the people who claim this ultimate woman is coming are the events that happen after you go on a date. So for example, I could get a date with a woman and she could then abruptly stop talking to me, even after claiming that she enjoyed this date. I could get married to a woman and she could divorce me after claiming that she did not feel the same connection with me that she used to. Both of these examples might sound pessimistic, but they are based off of experiences I've had with women in the past, where you think they're ready for you and that it's your turn, and then they pull the plug from under you. But these less than ideal circumstances are not talked about because they poke a hole in this narrative set forth by the people trying to convince me of the existence of the ultimate woman. These examples show that just because two people like each other, it doesn't mean the end result is automatically going to be to their liking. So I find people claiming I'm going to get a date eventually very obnoxious and really redundant, and backed by an idealism that just hasn't played out in the real world. When I have met women who say they are interested, they have shown that they can change their minds quicker than I can take a piss. And I have no reason to not believe women in the future will do the exact same thing. Many people who claim this magic woman will show up ignore these past experiences because when they are taken into account, they suggest a consistent pattern of flakiness that goes against what they are saying. Even in playing devil's advocate, I can't see a version of myself, whether it be when I'm 30 or 40, who will look back at any of this and think the ability to go on a date is worth nearly a decade of waiting. There are people who will call me entitled for being disillusioned with not getting a partner, but I think there's a much stronger case to be made that the people pushing entitlement are the ones promising a woman. They are trying to submit false hope for a woman they cannot guarantee, who ironically has shown up and proven to give a man the same result as women that say from the start that they are uninterested. I stopped talking to women because I could not justify talking to a group of people who say different things but do the same thing. But this contradiction and similarity is lost on the people promising me a woman because they're not the ones who have had their time wasted for 9 years. Since I'm not a person to any of them, they can project their fallacy of everybody meets somebody onto me, no matter how unbacked by reality it is.